Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. So we usually begin with a question that's come in advance from our online, internet-based family. But today I have one that someone here has written and given in, so we'll start with that. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. What are the effects of the moon upon us? And how, it's separate questions. What are the effects of the moon on us? And how can one attain a balanced, divine state of mind, free from these outside effects? So it's important to realize that the core of who we are, the essence, the truth, is soul, spirit, consciousness, that which is never born, that which never dies, that which just is, that which is infinite, that which is divine. This is that Atma Darshan that we talk about when we say self-realization or God realization. It's a realization and awareness that who we are is not the physical body, is not the physical brain, is not even the subtle body of the mental and intellectual impressions or the ego impressions. But actually who we are is soul, that pure Atma, that spirit. And we have a body. And that body, it's very difficult at those times to stay spiritually anchored and grounded. If you imagine that your stomach is in horrible pain, you're vomiting, you've got diarrhea, you're aching and miserable, or you're sweaty and feverish, those are difficult times to meditate. Enlightened masters, divine beings, yes, we have incredible stories of them even on deathbeds, in that awakened state. But for most of us, that which happens to our bodies, even if we recognize we're not the body, nonetheless it impacts us. Even just a migraine headache. You imagine trying to meditate, trying to do japa, trying to sit in satsang, trying to read scripture, with a severe migraine headache. Just something even that small. But it impacts us. And the reason that I mention that here is the moon impacts in a way of an energetic pull. The planets impact, the moon impacts. Now, I'm not an astrologer. I couldn't tell you exactly the pull, but I do have a very, very basic, even just elementary level of science that tells us that the high tide and low tide are based upon the cycles of the moon. As the moon changes, so the tide changes. Now, I don't know how many liters of water there are in the ocean, but a lot. And you imagine the pull from the moon, forget the rest of the planets. The pull from the moon on the earth is so much If you've ever lived by the beach, you know that the difference between where low tide and high tide are, it's not a few inches. Many cases, it's 15, 20, 30 feet. It's a huge difference how the water comes up on high tide. Low tide, water, door, say it's all the way over there. High tide, it's up at the house. Only because of the difference of the pull of the moon on the water. Now, the human body, again, elementary science, human body is mostly water. We're between 70% and 90%, even if it's just 70% water. How many pounds of water is that? Or you imagine you weigh very little. Imagine you only weigh 100 pounds. Well, that's still 70 pounds of water. Now, to move that is nothing for the moon. The moon moves the entire ocean. Now you think moving your 70 or 80 or 100 pounds of water in your body, that you're not going to be impacted by the pull of the moon? When the millions or billions of pounds of water that's in the ocean is moved that much, and we act like it has no impact on us? It's impossible. It's an absolute impossibility that the moon moves the water in the ocean that much and it doesn't impact us. So on a physical level, whether we are subtle enough to recognize it or not, the pull of the moon, the pull of the sun, the pull of the planets, it impacts us. Now, the goal is not to become unimpacted by that. Because as long as you have a body, you will be impacted. It's like saying, give me the mantra to overcome the impact of gravity. I don't think there is a mantra like that. Or you would see the saints flying through the sky. If they jumped up, they'd never come back down. If it were just that somehow with the power of the mind we were able to overcome the pulls of the body, the workings of the natural world, everyone would do it. Seems like fun to fly, jump off a building, fly like a bird, why not? But you never see anyone do it. Even the most enlightened masters, I've never heard of any of them jumping off a building and flying like a bird. They can do all kinds of other incredible feats. But other than Hanumanji leaping across the ocean, which wasn't really flying, it was a different type of feat, you never hear of those that defy gravity. In the same way, that pull of the moon upon us is a gravitational pull. It's going to impact us. But that doesn't mean that we allow it to control us. In the same way that when you're sick or you've got a headache, it's harder to meditate. But ideally, as your spiritual path progresses, you become like the masters who even on their deathbed, dying of painful cancer or painful something else, are living in bliss. Living in bliss. There's a beautiful story of Paramahansa Ramakrishna who died of cancer of the throat and in the mouth. And as he was dying, his disciples said to him, "Okay, please use your power and give that cancer to one of us so you don't have to suffer. Like, let us take this cancer. Please, you stay alive. We want to do this for you. Please let us." He looked and he said, "And which throat is not mine?" Which throat that you are offering that I should put the cancer in that one instead of mine, which one is not mine? They're all mine. Now you think, here you are in bed dying from an excruciatingly painful cancer. You've got the power, the siddhis, to free yourself of it. You've got the disciples ready to take it from you. But you don't let yourself be taken over by it. Even in that moment of pain in the body, where is he? In divine ecstasy, in that divine experience of all of you are me. That experience of oneness. That joy. If you read about his last days, it's exquisite. So the goal is not to be unimpacted by the pulls on the body and therefore the pulls on the brain or the mind, but to develop a spiritual practice that is strong enough that whether it's a pain, a fever, a gravitational pull, a deathbed, that you don't identify as it. So as this questioner asked about anger and hyperactivity and all of the different things that change with the moon, well, you've got control over that. You don't have control over the moon pulling at the water in your body any more than we can stop the low tide from becoming a high tide. But you can certainly refuse to give in to the anger. Just because there is a pull doesn't mean we give in to it. We all have pulls in the mind of lust, of greed, of jealousy, of anger, of ego, of judgment, of negativity. It's the nature of the mind. But you don't give in to them. Just because you like someone's shawl, you don't steal it. Just because you think someone's attractive, you don't jump on them. Like, we understand. That's just a biochemical, an electrical pattern of activity taking place in my brain or on the glands on my kidneys or wherever it's taking place in my body that's causing, whether it's adrenaline, whether it's other hormones, whether it's neurotransmitters to be secreted. It's just biochemical. I don't have to give in to it. So when the moon changes and you find yourself impacted, you don't have to give in to it. If you become a werewolf, doesn't mean you have to go out and kill people. Stay with your sadhana. Stay anchored, stay grounded. Be grateful for that beautiful connection with the natural world, with the moon, that you feel that impact. Oh, welcome full moon. If you feel that rising, just welcome the moon, the new moon, the full moon. Just welcome it. And have gratitude for the connection. But don't give in to the energetic pulls any more than you give in to pulls of lust or greed or anger or desire or whatever it may be. Use that power. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes. Come, choose your mic.
First of all, I would like to thank you, acknowledge you for everything you have done. I've been coming here since last 2 years, I believe, and I always wanted somebody, like some guru in real who can answer my questions, and I've been looking out for it from so long, and then I met you. And even if I don't have any question in my mind, sometimes when I'm sitting here, it feels like I get the answer, and I'm so grateful for all the things you have been doing. for choosing this life, for being a medium, and for passing on this. So grateful, so thankful. I've been waiting to say it so long. And my question is, okay, so as we know, we have 4 ashrams, like, and I was pretty clear that I have to move through grahast ashram. But since last few weeks, I believe, I've been feeling that I've been, maybe because of past relationships, failed relationships as well, that I feel that it's not for me. And from last few weeks, that it like all the signs are coming that it is not for you. But I don't want to believe it because I feel that that desire is still there to have a companion, not to have a normal married life, but to have a life in which I can move with a companion in spiritual path. So I believe that yes, it is there, but I don't know why all the signs are saying something else, or maybe it is my mind playing games with me. So I want to know.
Beautiful. So, in the Indian tradition, we're told that we have 4 ashrams, 4 phases of life. Our student years called brahmacharya ashram. Then our householder years, marriage, children, careers, etc., called grahast ashram phase. Then we move into vanprastha ashram and sannyasa ashram. She's getting signs and signals that maybe the grahast ashram phase, the householder phase, isn't for her, even though she has desires for it. Well, there's 2 possibilities. One possibility is that you find a companion to walk through your spiritual path with. Grahast ashram doesn't mean that you have to do it the same way that other people do it. It doesn't mean that you need to make money your priority or building a big house your priority. It doesn't even mean you have to have children. So you may be getting signals and signs that you are meant to be going deeper and deeper on a spiritual path. And there are people who would love to be in relationship, but not necessarily be totally stuck in just make the money and come home and spend the money and, buy a house and then buy a bigger house and buy a car and buy a bigger car and have 2 weeks of vacation a year and, send the kids to soccer games and make them dressed so nicely that the neighbors are jealous. And, there's a lot of people who really desire something deeper. I don't necessarily think that your signs mean you're absolutely not meant to do it if you still have a strong desire to. But I would sit with that desire, because if you're getting signs that say this phase of life is not for me, simply having a desire may not be enough of a reason to go against all of those signs you're getting. The desire it's programmed into us. I remember on a personal level, I came to India at 25, the age of 25. Started living here almost immediately. At the age of 29, I took official vows of sannyas, of monastic renunciation. And at the age around 31, 32, something like that, I suddenly started having these overwhelming desires for children. I would see babies, and suddenly it would be like, oh my God, baby, I have to have a baby. Babies, I need babies. I need babies. And no matter where I went, no matter who, any baby I saw, it just, in me, inspired this. it was like a wave of desire of just, oh my God, I need a baby. And I finally went to Puja Swamiji, my guru, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm having these like overwhelming desires for babies. And he said, no problem. He said, it's okay. He said, you can stop being a sannyasi. Usually it's not done, but no problem. You're very young. You didn't really know what you were getting yourself into. And he said, no problem. You can, stop being a sannyasi and we'll find you a nice Indian man to marry and you can have babies. And I said, no. Like, I have no interest in being married. I'm not having desires for sex. Like, I just want babies. And he looked at me and said, and who's the scientist here? Like, how in the world are you going to manifest a baby if you don't have a man? Like, what are you going to do? And he said, just sit with it then. Just see what happens. Just leave it in God's hands. And after not too much time, the desires passed. And I realized as it was going on that it was biochemical. Like, women's bodies have been programmed and evolved for tens of millions of years to have babies. It's how we carry on the species. And, early 30s starts to be kind of a peak time of if you don't start now, you're not going to be able to have enough of them. Because remember, our bodies are still based upon times in which child mortality was very high. Society has evolved very, very quickly. The bodies don't evolve so quickly. So the way most of our bodies are programmed is going back to times in which, in order to have one child live beyond the age of 5, you needed to give birth to 10 of them. So I realized I'm just having these chemical reactions. And so I just started sitting with them, and they would rise like waves. You just sit and you realize, this is just a wave of a biochemical reaction. And slowly it dissipated. It didn't last very long. It was a few years. And of course, God sent me in the interim the most beautiful, amazing, now young woman, at the time very young little girl, to essentially adopt. But the universe works in incredible ways. So I would say, if you're getting those signs that are really strong, that you are not meant to be married, that you're not meant to have that householder phase of life, just because there's desire still, doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to do it. Like, I knew that simply this desire was not a reason for me to somehow and suddenly dump everything that was so obviously right for me, that was so obviously my dharma. I wasn't sure how to reconcile those two things, like how we were going to bridge them together. But I knew that I was meant to stay in this dharma. And so you learn to just sit with desire and to look at it and to see what is it really telling you? Is it really a sign or a signal for you to make a decision in your life? Or is it just the same chemical reactions that have been flooding the bodies of young women and young men for tens of millions of years? Because this is the best way to keep on the species. And just sit with it, watch it. It'll tell you. No need to rush into either this or that. Wonderful. Other questions? Yeah.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri
Radhe
Krishna.
Radhe. My question is, पास्ट जन्म और पुनर्जन्म होता है? और अगर होता है तो मनुष्य को मनुष्य अवतार ही मिलता है या कोई भी योनि में मिल सकता है? कि बचपन में ऐसा स्कूल में डराते थे कि ऐसे कुछ
Yeah,
किया
yeah, you'll
तो
come back as a frog.
Actually. और दूसरा ये कि आप क्या चाहोगे अगर पुनर्जन्म है तो आप मोक्ष की प्राप्ति चाहते हो कि आप मानव अवतार चाहते हो?
Great. So, yes, past lives absolutely exist. This cycle of birth and death and reincarnation absolutely exists. We now have not just spiritual evidence, but scientific evidence. If you go on Google and you start Googling past life evidence, there's all kinds of stories, not just from India, but of young children with vivid memories that are later proved to be exactly right in situations where there's no way that this child knew. But kids, and it's much more frequently with young children, where they'll come into this world, they'll be a few years old, and they'll have a very clear sense of, oh, my other family, this happened to me in this place, and they'll go back and they'll find, yes, certain number of years ago, this type of accident happened, that one died. The kids will say things like, in my closet is my, Snoopy dog. And the parents will say, yes, oh my God, it's still there. So there's lots and lots of evidence. We know it exists. Do humans always come back as humans? Ideally, yes. Ideally we always move forward. It's said that a human birth is the highest birth in this spiritual evolution because we are the most conscious. We are most definitely not the most kind. We are most definitely not the most intelligent. But it is said that we are the most conscious, that we are the only being, the only species that has the ability to be conscious of itself, to actually say, I am not my body. Who am I? Neti neti. These sorts of practices are to say, aham brahmasmi, that sort of awareness that I am one with the divine. It's believed is only possible for humans. That no other species actually can look at itself. But if you throw away this human birth, I have no doubt that you're not going to get it again. We don't hear stories scientifically of the earthworm that remembers its previous human incarnation because earthworms don't speak our language. They're not showing up in science labs saying, hey, I remember my past birth. I really messed it up. That's why I'm an earthworm this time. They're not going on, lecture circuits saying, don't make the mistake that I made or you too will be an earthworm. They're just earthworms or frogs or whatever. I think it is possible. I don't know. Again, because we don't have any evidence of that. But I think that you would have to go really, really far down to deprive yourself of even the benefit of a human birth again. I think probably what's more likely, if you really mess up this one, is that you're just going to come back in the next life in a way such that you have to not only learn all the lessons you were supposed to learn this time, but now you have to literally eat the bitter fruit of all of the seeds that you planted in this lifetime. And in terms of desire for, do I desire moksha, freedom, liberation, or coming back? I love this life. I love this body. Really, I marvel at it. Every morning in my gratitude practice, the very first thing that pops out of my mouth, first thing that comes to my mind is, thank you, God, for this incredible body. Like, here we still are. It's amazing. This body is amazing. I love it. Doesn't mean that it doesn't cause pain sometimes, but I love it. I love what it can do. I love that it's changeable. Gaining too much weight, you can lose weight. Losing too much weight, you can gain weight. Getting flabby, you can exercise. Feeling tired, you can rest. I love that it's so open to all of that which we do. I love the fact that you can make really stupid mistakes like eating a whole bunch of pizza and French fries for dinner, and yet you wake up the next morning and it just comes right through you and you get a brand new start again, fresh. Like, amazing. It's incredible. I love the body. I love that which I experience through the senses. I love the sound of beautiful music. I love listening to Puja Swamiji sing. I love looking at Ganga. I love looking at sunrises and sunsets and the stars and children and babies and people I love. I love touch. I love hugs. I love sight. I love all of it. I love tasting yummy, healthy food. Why not? We've been given these senses to enjoy. I do not believe God has given us this gift of 5 senses just for us to deprive ourselves of any joy. This incredible creation, but I'm going to make myself blind. We have a whole Mahabharata that tells us what happens when you go blind. So we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to open our eyes and see. The problem is the mind. For all of us. If I could have moksha from anything, it would be just from the games of the mind. Moksha from anger, moksha from ego, moksha from desire, moksha from fear. Moksha from past patterns and impressions and neuroses and games of the psyche and games of the mind. That's the moksha we need. Then every minute and every moment is just a blessing. Why not come back? Then you just get to experience God in so many more ways. Absolutely, I want to come back, especially because Puja Swamiji says he's coming back. Yeah, we're all coming back. We're all coming back. In fact, one of my favorite stories is of a devotee of Puja Swamiji's who's now, God, he must be 83, 4 by now. He's a doctor in America, and he was one of Puja Swamiji's first devotees in America. Very, very renowned doctor, but a photographer by hobby. And so all of the first early beautiful pictures of Puja Swamiji in America, the Hindu Jain temple, all of that, he shot them all. We're still using pictures that he shot, 40 years ago. So he was always the photographer. So his wife told me relatively recently that they were sitting with their friends, and they're all of advancing age. And they're all beautiful devotees, very pious people, devoted people. And they were all talking about hoping that they attain moksha when they die, that they don't have to come back. And somebody was saying, oh, Navalji, that's his name, Dr. Naval Kant. Somebody was saying, oh, Navalji, you will definitely get moksha. Like, you are such a pious, beautiful man. And he said, oh, I don't want moksha. He says, I'm coming back. And his friends all said, why? What? His wife was the one who told me this story. His friends all said, why? And he said, because my guru's coming back. And if he's coming back, who's going to take his picture? He says, I have to come back. I have to come back and take my guru's pictures in next life also. So that's the way of thinking about it. When the mind stops being something that troubles you. Then it's like, yeah, eventually I'll lose this body. The body's going to stop working so well. Then I'll get a new one. I'll get to start all over again. And if you're free from the mind, then what a blessing. I mean, you look at this creation, amazing. The only problem is the mind. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world online. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. We do have our special New Year's retreat that is beginning tomorrow in the afternoon. It starts with Darshana's beautiful meditation class at 3, and then an orientation, and then it continues on through January 1st. It's all open to everyone. There's no charge for anything. It's full of yoga, meditation, philosophy, past life regressions even, Ayurveda, Satsang, of course, beautiful nature walks, so much. A very, very special ceremony on the 31st evening and first morning. So if you would like to get more information and sign up for that, I'll ask actually Darshana if you and Preeti, I don't see her, so if you can stay back, I'm going to help people connect with Preeti or Manisha in the office to sign up for it. That will be wonderful. Anybody who would like to sign up, you are more than welcome. And even if you can't join us for the full 4 or 5 days, you're welcome to come for any number of days or parts of the program that you'd like.